Thank you to Ana Luisa for sponsoring today's video. Ana Luisa is my absolute favorite everyday jewelry brand for many reasons. Their pieces are super high quality, beautiful, can be dressed up or down, and are just so comfortable. Not only that, but Ana Luisa is committed to fair prices while producing jewelry ethically. There is no unnecessary mining or excessive markups. They use recycled materials whenever possible, and they are 100% carbon and water neutral from start to finish. If you look through my videos, I'm mostly wearing Ana Luisa pieces. And while I love nearly everything they sell, my favorite are the dainty feminine necklaces that don't get tangled in my hair. I wear them every day and often sleep in them as well. If you're looking to treat yourself or someone else with a beautiful and ethical piece of jewelry, then I really recommend you check out Ana Luisa by clicking the link in the pinned comment. And if you use my code, you'll also get an extra 10% off your purchase. Thanks again, Ana Luisa. I really love working with you. And now on to today's video.
Hi, welcome to Jovie's home. Today, I thought it would be really fun to go through just 6 differences between working in the United States and working in the Netherlands. There might be more. You might have different ones. Let me know in the comments if you do. But these are just 6 that have come to my mind. As you may know, I'm currently looking for a job, so I'm in the job market, so I'm quite inspired by work stuff. So if that sounds good to you, then why don't you come on in, kick off your shoes and stay a while. I'm really glad you're here. The first difference that I noticed when I first started working at a Dutch company was paid transport. This was such a shock, and I mean it in the most positive way, you know, like like, wow, I can't believe somebody would do that. And yeah, it was a great surprise. So basically, Dutch companies, for the most part, will either reimburse you 100% for your public transportation costs. So if you get to work by any means of public transport, whether it's the train or the bus or the tram or whatever, your work will reimburse that. Some companies will actually pay you money, extra money, to ride your own bike to work. That's like an incentive, if I ever heard one. And pretty much most companies, if you drive your own vehicle to work, they will reimburse you. I think currently it's 19 cents per kilometer. So you just Google map like your house to your work, multiply it by 2 and multiply that by 19 cents, and that's how much you're gonna get for every day that you go into the office. I think that what this does, why it's so cool, is that it really enables people to travel throughout the country. So for most of my career, when I was actually going to work outside of my home, I had a job in Amsterdam, so I was commuting The Hague to Amsterdam every day, and that can be really expensive. At that time, I think I was spending somewhere close to 400 euros a month with the public transportation, how much it would be to get me to work and back. And my company paid for all of that. It did not have to come out of my own salary, whereas in the United States, it does. Like, you're expected that you're gonna pay for yourself to get to work, and that's just how it is. So the next difference between working in the US and working in the Netherlands is the employment contract. Now, in all of my time in the United States, I had many jobs, and I've worked, you know, from selling shoes, like in a shoe store, to working at a makeup company, to having like a professional career job. I've never had an employment contract. You have what is called at-will employment, which means that you, as the employee, choose to work there. The company chooses you to work there too, but you can be fired for any reason at any time, and that's it. Like, I just feel like there's not a lot of job security the way that there is here in the Netherlands. Here in the Netherlands, typically for a job, you will have first a 1-month contract, so it's like kind of a probation period. Then your 1-month contract will be converted into a 1-year contract. And at the end of that 1 year, then you will probably be offered a permanent contract. There are some exceptions, of course. There are 0-hour contracts, and there are like these weird setups. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about traditionally, you know, this is what it looks like. The contracts are really important because they enable you to have some sort of job security, and also that then translates into other areas of your life. So if you want to buy a house, you have this contract that says that you basically have a job. If you have a permanent contract, that you have a job forever, which then makes your lender or your mortgage or your bank or whatever be like, okay, well, we know that this person is going to have an income and will be able to pay their mortgage. So yeah, let's give them a mortgage. It just really enables you to have more security, more sense of, I think, freedom, knowing that you cannot just be fired because they don't like your nail polish or they don't like something random. You know, maybe you had a bad day and it was off, and you know, you are just more secure in your employment, and I find that super important. Next up, and this was a little bit of a less positive surprise, it was the salaries. So in the United States, salaries are typically much higher than what you would get in the Netherlands. Here you have professional salaries like at 2,500 euros a month, 3,000. You know, if you have 4 or 5, that's like you're doing well. Of course, you have people earning millions. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about average people. Whereas in the United States, they are significantly higher. However, you cannot just look at that salary and be like, well, you know, that's shit. It is what it is. I like to look at it as, what does this salary actually enable me to do? So in the United States, you might have a huge salary, but you also then will need to pay maybe your health insurance out of that salary. And maybe you have lower taxes, but there are other considerations. I think that in the Netherlands, even though we have smaller salaries, we are able to have a better quality of life. We have more vacation time, which we will get to later on in this video. But with your vacation time and your holiday pay and things like that, people here typically tend to go on more holidays and longer holidays, far trips. You know, Dutch people are really well traveled. You know, one year you might choose to do a close trip and stay within Europe, you know, and then another year you're going to do a faraway trip somewhere to Asia, to Bali, to whatever. And this is normal here, you guys. And that was not the case. And even though, so again, bringing it back to salaries, even though the salaries are lower overall, the cost of living and the way that things are, I feel like you're able to do more with your salary than you might be able to do in the United States. So another thing that surprised me when we first moved here was the amount of time that you get for a lunch break, and also that typically your employer provides lunch. Now, in the United States, pretty much every job that I had, we would have a 1-hour lunch break. So you stop from 12 to 1 and you go and you have lunch. Most of the time you're having it outside the office, you are going somewhere, you're gonna go pick up some food, you're gonna buy a salad, you're gonna do whatever. Maybe your office has a canteen, maybe not. But in the Netherlands, lunch is typically 30 minutes. It's like a 30-minute break. And then also you eat mostly in the office, like in the office. The places where I've worked in the past typically provide lunch, a cold lunch, but like a full spread of like, you know, different kinds of bread, different kinds of toppings, drinks, like all of that stuff. And for example, in my last employment, the receptionist, the office assistant or manager or whatever, she would set up the conference room for lunch for everyone. So she would put everything out and then we would all show up and just eat lunch together with the CEO, with the managing team, with everybody together in one room, and you just have lunch, and that is paid for through your employer, and you don't have to pay for your own lunch and you don't have to bring it. And that's why 30 minutes is enough. Everything's there. You just, you eat your quick sandwich and then you get back to work, which means you get to go home 30 minutes earlier because you had a 30-minute shorter break. So I prefer that. I think that's really cool. And yeah, I would like to know, if you are not in the Netherlands, does your employer provide lunch? Is that like kind of a standard thing, or is that not a standard thing? I'm really curious if other European countries do that too. Let me know. Part-time work options. Let's talk about that, because that was such a joy for me, and that is one of the reasons that I value and love living and working in the Netherlands. It's not abnormal to have a professional career and to work part-time. So I'm thinking, for example, my next door neighbor, who is a doctor, she works 4 days a week. Her husband is an engineer. He works 4 days a week. It is absolutely normal and accepted and not looked down upon, I would say. I don't think that that's the case in the United States. Most likely that come to my mind are jobs that maybe you would have if you're like a student or something, student type jobs, but I don't really know of that many like professional lawyers that could work 4 or 3 days a week. But yet I feel like it contributes so much to a work-life balance, and that is incredible and amazing, and I really, really value that. The last thing that I just briefly want to touch upon, as I promised earlier, which is about going on holidays. Full-time employees in the Netherlands are legally entitled to a minimum of 20 days off, which is 4 weeks. In my experience, I've never had less than 5 weeks off at an employer, excluding federal holidays, of which we have 11 or 12. I think in the United States, the norm is when you start at a job, you get 1, maybe 2, if you're lucky, weeks off per year. The one thing that really confuses me also in the United States is that you have a certain amount of sick days that you can use. So I've had employers where they would say like, you have 5 sick days that you can use in a year. And I'm like, okay, but what happens if you're sick for longer than 5 days? Like, I don't know how you can tell your like body like, hey, you've been sick already for 5 days this year, you cannot get sick anymore. And then your body's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like, you're sick or you're not sick. I mean, I don't understand how you can limit the number of sick days, but this is a thing, this is real, it's how it works in the United States, and it just shocks me. We are very blessed in Europe, and especially in the Netherlands, that we have minimum guaranteed vacation days. And your employer actually asks you to take those days. It is more beneficial for you to take those days than to get cashed out on them and then have to pay taxes. And a lot of employers don't even want to do that. So they'll tell you like, hey, you have to go on your holiday, like go take those 3 weeks off that you have left over, go do it. A lot of times when I've mentioned this in the past on my videos, people will be like, that is so unfair to other employees that you go on this like long 3-week holiday and everybody else has to pick up the slack. This has kind of been some of the comments from the Americans that I've gotten on my videos, and to that I want to say that's not how it works, friend. You have teams, right? There are people who work in your office. You all get that kind of time off. So when this person is on holiday, yeah, these 4 people will pick up the slack. When this person is back and then this person goes on holiday, these people will pick up the slack. And that's how it goes. So you share the workload, you share, because everybody is entitled to a break. Everybody is entitled to time off. Everybody should have that and make use of that. And so everybody supports the other people getting that. And no one is getting mad that somebody goes on a 2 or 3 week holiday, because that's normal here. It's not a burden to other people. Like, it's just what it is. I think even, for example, in France, and a lot of companies, they just shut down for the entire month of August. We don't do that in the Netherlands. Maybe some companies do, but definitely, like, there are places where they will just be closed for an entire month because the whole team is on vacation. And yet somehow the world still keeps spinning. And yet somehow that company still continues to be profitable, still has employees, still has people working there, and it's incredible. So don't think that just because in the United States your employers are like, you better not take time off, or like, you know, we cannot spare you for 3 days that you go and have a break. That's just not how it is here. And it really feels good to be able to go and relax and rest and then come back and just perform better. So yeah, went off a little bit there. Anyway, you guys, those are my 6 differences that I just wanted to talk about. Maybe I'll make another video with some more, but I would love to know what your thoughts, what are your reactions to this? Thank you so much for coming over. Thank you for spending some time with me today. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Doei!